ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into another edition of Keytime Sports. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube, Key City Sports on Instagram, and the KeyOnMillions.co. Here is my media feed for my segments and my different clips and sound bites. Here is my profile for merchandise so that you will know it's me. Here is my merchandise. We also have live merchandise, and we are going to be rolling out new merchandise throughout the entirety of this year. So, now let's get to the matter at hand. It's the NFL playoffs. And our first game of the NFL playoffs will start in Charlotte, North Carolina. But before I get into the previews for this game, I'm going to give you all the rosters for this game. Now here is the Rams as far as their team. Top passer, Matthew Stafford, Williams, Puka Nacua, Landman, and Kobe Durant, the top cornerback on their team. And here is the yards that Matthew Stafford threw for over the regular season. Here is the rushing for the Rams. Here's the receiving for the Rams, led by Puka Nacua. Here is the defense for the Rams. Here is total defense, 1,208 solo tackles as a defensive unit. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL, if not the top defense in the NFL. So now let's look at the schedule and let's see where everything starts and ends at. So, first week of the season, they played Houston. They won 14-9. Then they lost in Philadelphia. They lost to San Francisco on a Thursday night. They lost to Carolina, the team that they will be playing on Saturday, on tomorrow. That they will be playing, they lost on November 30th. They lost to also Seattle and Atlanta, and that is why they are at the fifth spot. Now, let's get on over to the Carolina Panthers roster. Carolina Panthers, now this is one team that I said at the start of the season that could be a dark horse to make the playoffs. Obviously, a lot of people said that I didn't know what I was talking about. But I said that is how bad the NFC South is, because you don't know what you're going to get from the Buccaneers. You don't know what you're going to get from the Atlanta Falcons. You don't know what you're going to get from the Saints. Well, we kind of knew what we were going to get from the Saints because this was a rebuilding year for them. And the Panthers was just that one team in the diamond in the rough. 2 years ago, Carolina was at the bottom of the NFL. Nobody came to their games. And now it seems like they're having some sort of resemblance of respect. Because a team, I don't care whether you limp in the playoffs. At the end of the day, you're in the playoffs. So now let's look at the roster of these players. You got Bryce Young, Rico Dowdle, Terrion McMillan. Then you have Chris Roseboom, leader in tackles, and then you have Jay Horn, the leader in interceptions on the defense as far as cornerback. We get to Bryce Young. He threw for over 3,000 yards. Rico Dowdle, top running back. Wide receiver, Terrion McMillan, and also the defense. Now, the defense is pretty much up and down, and Carolina, they have been one of those teams that have had alternating wins. They win here, lose the next week, win, lose, and it's just been an up and down season. They haven't won multiple games. They haven't had a winning streak at all this season, at least not to my knowledge. Now, there's so much that has happened throughout the season, so before I get into that, we are going to look at solo tackles as a defense. They have 1,287 solo tackles as a defense. We look at the schedule, and as you can see, they did have a winning streak. Miami, Dallas, and New York, but all of those teams are out of the playoffs, so you can't really take much away from that. But they started off the season with a loss versus Jacksonville, versus Arizona, then a loss versus New England, then Buffalo, New Orleans. Now, New Orleans, I was surprised that they lost to New Orleans. San Francisco, New Orleans again. They got swept by New Orleans. Then they lost to Seattle and Tampa. And the reason why they got into the playoffs was because Atlanta beat New Orleans and they got into the playoffs by default. So now we get to the matchup predictor for the current game at hand, the Los Angeles Rams and the Carolina Panthers. Los Angeles Rams and Carolina Panthers. We get to the preview. We have Matthew Stafford looks to avenge loss to Panthers as Rams seek second Super Bowl title in 5 years. Charlotte, North Carolina, Matthew Stafford arrived at training camp in July, unsure if he would even play football this season due to a back injury. But after the MVP-type season that included a league-leading 4,707 passing yards and 46 touchdowns, Stafford has the Los Angeles Rams 12-5 poised to make a run at a second Super Bowl in 5 years. The quest begins on Saturday with a heavily favored Rams visiting the Carolina Panthers for a wild card playoff game. There were some lean moments, Stafford said of his rehab from the back injury. It was a touch and go there for a little bit. A lot of treatments, and there are things that I did try to help myself to get to this point. I didn't know if I would get there, but I went out there and it was wait and see. Let's see what happens. Luckily it turned around. Luckily it turned out pretty good. First up is a shot at redemption against the Panthers, 8-9, who beat the Rams 31-28 in Week 13 in Charlotte, ending LA's 6-game winning streak. Rams coach Sean McVay called the result humbling for his team. From there, the Rams stumbled down the stretch, losing the inside track on the number 1 seed, home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs with a heartbreaking 38-37 overtime loss to Seattle in Week 16, with the wide receiver Devontae Adams returning from a hamstring injury. The Rams believe that they are ready to make a run. I just don't take any of these opportunities for granted. The 37-year-old Stafford said, I don't take them for granted because I've had years where I either haven't been able to play in the playoffs or I haven't been able to play in certain games because of injury. It feels great to be at this point. Carolina enters the game as a 10.5-point underdog according to Sportsbook, the same point spread as Week 13 against the Rams after losing 3 of its final 4 games and needing the Falcons to beat the Saints in Week 18 just to get into the postseason. Still, the Rams know that they can beat. Still, the Panthers know they can beat the Rams. Carolina controlled the clock in the first meeting. The Panthers racked up 164 yards on 40 carries, while Bryce Young had a career day, completing 15 of 20 for 206 passing yards, 3 touchdowns for the second highest quarterback rating, 147.1 in franchise history. And as far as quarterback rating, the highest quarterback rating that you can have is 158.3. That is a perfect passer rating when it comes to being a quarterback. Defense forced 3 turnovers by Stafford and snapped his NFL record streak of 28 touchdown passes without an interception. We know we can win. Panthers safety Nick Scott said, "We have won multiple times and it doesn't matter who the opponent is. We are just excited to be in the playoffs. The intensity will be through the roof." The Panthers are 5-2 in home playoff games in their 31-year history. Fourth down was pivotal in the last meeting. Young threw two touchdown passes against the Rams on fourth down in the last meeting. A 33-yard strike to Jalen Coker late in the third quarter and a 43-yarder to Terrio McMillan midway through the fourth. It's always a combination of things, Rams defensive coordinator Chris Schuler said of his team's struggles to get off the field on fourth down. Sometimes it's part of a scheme and it's part of play calling. I think they did a good job of keeping us off balance. Sometimes you're thinking run, and next thing you know, they're dropping back and throwing it, and they get an explosive play. Rams defense seek return to form. The Rams' once impressive defense faded badly down the stretch, with losses allowing 28 points per game in the final six contests and particularly struggling late in close games. Carolina moved the ball well in the team's first meeting, putting together four drives of 60 plus yards, but the Rams expect a boost from the return of versatile safety Quentin Lake, who missed the last seven games following elbow surgery. Playoff newcomers. The Rams roster has plenty of postseason experience, but two key players are making their playoff debuts. Linebacker Nate Landman, LA's leading tackler and defensive signal caller, also 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 spent his first three seasons with Atlanta before blossoming this year. Rookie kicker Harrison Mevis made his NFL debut in November, and while he is an impressive 12 for 13 on field goal attempts and 39 of 39 on extra points, his only miss was a high pressure kick with 2 minutes 7 seconds left in a tie game at Seattle last month. The Rams lost in OT. The Panthers have 31 players who have never played in a postseason game, including Young. Ground game could be key for the Rams. The Rams had the NFL's top passing offense with Stafford, Puka Nakua, and Adams, who returns from injury Saturday. But the Los Angeles Rams also thrive on the ground, as the Panthers learned in November when Kerryon Williams and Blake Corum combined to rush for 153 yards and two TDs. The Rams finished in the league, in yards rushing, seventh in the league in yards in rushing, and they're facing Carolina's 20th ranked rushing defense. Newton to rev up Panthers fans. Cam Newton is expected to return to Charlotte to hit the keep pounding drum at Bank of America Stadium. The relationship between the Panthers and Newton has been frosty since the end of his second stint with the team in 2021. The Panthers have not won a playoff game since Newton led them to the NFC title 10 years ago. So now, point spread of this game and who I think is going to win. I believe that the Los Angeles Rams will win this game, but it is not going to be a blowout. It isn't. Because we have got to give the Panthers fans and the Panthers organization respect. They are a playoff team. Now, they just limped into the playoffs, but those teams that just limp into the playoffs, they can cause some problems. And I think that at the start of the game, the Panthers they may give the Rams problems, but in the end, the Rams are going to come through and win this game. So I got the Rams winning this game. Can y'all put up the next slide for me, the next game? Thank you all. The Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. Packers and Bears to meet for the long time in the longest rivalry. But first, before I get into that, I want to show you all the players that are on both of these teams so that we will know who we are talking about. So here, they started off the schedule. Packers started off the schedule with wins over Detroit and Washington. Then they had a loss in Cleveland. And then we get down to the last 4 games of the season. They lost to Denver. They lost to Chicago. They lost to Baltimore. They lost to Minnesota. The last time the Packers won a game was Chicago in Lambeau Field, and this was over a little bit over a month. December 7th, last month, early last month. So it's been almost a little over a month since the Packers won a game. Now we get to the statistics. Jordan Love, top passer for the Packers. Josh Jacobs, top rusher. Rico Dobbs, you have Q Walker, then you have the leader in interceptions, you have Eric Williams in there. And also, when we get to the Packers defense. Now, here's one thing, America, I want y'all to focus on. The Packers defense has not been the type of defense that we saw early in the season. And see, this is why I say early season success, it does not matter. That's why I say it takes 4 to 6 games to know what type of team you have. And then when you get past that 6th or 7th game, you obviously know what kind of team you have. You know whether you have a championship contender or a playoff contender. The Packers, to me right now, they are just a playoff contender. And now they are in the playoffs. So now we are going to see their defense. Solo tackles, 1,321 solo tackles as a defense, okay? Now we get to the point where we get to the Bears in this case. The Bears defense, pretty good defense. The Bears, who are led by, and I want everybody to know and understand why everybody is calling Caleb Williams this nickname. He is the Iceman, Caleb Iceman Williams. Let it be known, Chicago. Now, you already know how I feel about Chicago. Hey, if Chicago, I don't want to cover a game in Chicago. It's just too damn cold. But hey, if I got to cover the NFC Championship game in Chicago, it's all good, all good. But Chicago, start of the season was not great. They started off losing to Minnesota and Detroit. They put themselves behind the 8 ball after losing those 2 games. Then they lost to Baltimore. They lost to Green Bay on December 7th, came back December 20th, won versus Green Bay, and have lost the last 2 games of the regular season. Now they have the Green Bay Packers again for the 3rd time this season. Here are the statistics for the Chicago Bears, led by Caleb Iceman Williams. You got DeAndre Swift. You got Dante Moore. You also have, for their receiving, you have Courtland Loveland. For the defense, you have over a defensive unit that has 1,275 solo tackles. So the defense, they get turnovers in Chicago. They do. They don't call them monsters of the Midway for nothing. And they don't call it the Windy City for nothing. But now, so when we get to this game and the preview for this game, let's get back to the preview segment of this part. Thank you, guys. Packers and Bears to meet for a rare playoff game in the longest rivalry, in the NFL's longest rivalry. Lake Forest, the Chicago Bears, and the Green Bay Packers have played each other more than any other two teams in the NFL. Playoff games, however, are a rarity. The Packers and Bears will add another chapter to the longest rivalry. They will meet in a wild card game at Soldier Field on Saturday night. It'll be just the third time the franchises of Hallis and Lombardi have faced off in the postseason, and the significance wasn't lost on the participants. It's a crazy rivalry, and the fact that we're playing in the playoff and the fact that we're playing them in the playoffs too, it just magnifies it to another notch almost. Packers safety Xavier McKinney said, and it makes it much more important. Bears tight end Cole Kmet grew up in the Chicago area and developed a strong rooting interest for any Green Bay opponent. He now has the personal tie to the Packers. His sister is dating defensive tackle Lucas Van Ness of the Packers. Huh. It means a lot, Komet said, to be able to be at home against Green Bay. It's going to be a special atmosphere, and it almost feels like we've played these guys like 5 of 6 times here in the past month, but I think that'll just make it the atmosphere in the battle that much more epic. The Bears, 11-6, are hosting a playoff game for the first time since 2018 when Cody Parkey double dunk missed field goal sealed a wild card loss to Philadelphia. They've lost 3 straight playoff games since 2010. The team they beat Seattle in the divisional round at Soldier Field. And that way that season ended remains a bitter memory for fans. The Bears lost at home in the NFC Championship game to Aaron Rodgers and the hated Packers. We all know what happened then. That is almost 16 years ago. Man, where does the time go? And where has the time went? Green Bay Packers, 9-7-1, has dominated the rivalry in recent decades, but during the past 2 seasons, it's been even. Last year, both games were decided on a field goal attempts by Chicago Cairo Santos. One was blocked and the other one was successful. Both meetings this season were close, with Green Bay winning at Lambeau Field in Week 14 and Chicago prevailing in overtime 2 weeks later. Johnson led the turnaround for the Bears, with Coach Ben Johnson setting the tone in the first season and quarterback Caleb Iceman Williams, emphasis on the Iceman, making strides in his second year. The Bears went from finishing last in the NFC North to winning the division for the first time since 2018. They made the playoffs for the first time in 5 years and secured the number 2 seed in the NFC, but they lost their last 2 games of the regular season, 42-38 at San Francisco and 19-16 to Detroit on a last-second field goal. Packers defensive struggles without Michael Parsons. The Packers have lost 4 straight with the number 7 seed in the NFC locked up. They rested their top players last week at Minnesota, limping into the postseason. Limping into the postseason was not the Packers, is not what the Packers envisioned when they began the season. A trade for Dallas star pass rusher Michael Parsons sent expectations soaring. The 2-time All-Star Pro suffered a season-ending injury in Week 15 loss at Denver, and the defense has struggled without him. Green Bay blew a second-half lead against the Broncos and at Chicago following the following week, and gave up 307 yards rushing while falling 41-21 at home to Baltimore. The Packers expect to have quarterback Jordan Love back. He missed the final 2 regular season games after exiting the loss at Chicago with a concussion. Bears Nixon was a pivotal figure in both of the regular season games. The Packers overlooked the Bears for the NFC North lead with a 28-21 win in Week 14, hanging on thanks to an interception by Keyshawn Nixon in the end zone with 22 seconds remaining. Chicago had 4th and 1 at the 14, and Williams badly underthrew Cole Kmet. Williams got some payback 2 weeks later by throwing a 46-yard touchdown pass to DJ Moore in overtime for a 22-16 win. The Bears rallied from 10 points down in the final 2 minutes of regulation. Nixon had coverage on the winning TD after he had Nate Hobbs and Jahad Walker wide open on a tying score. Nixon was looking forward to playing the Bears again. I didn't want anybody else, he said. I wanted the Bears. Not much playoff history for these franchises. The last time Green Bay and Chicago met in the playoffs, Rodgers took a Lambeau leap out of Brett Favre's shadow, and the Packers knocked Jay Cutler out of the game with a knee injury on the way to a 21-14 victory. Now, I am not going to bore y'all to death with the 2010 NFC Championship game. If you need a refresher, go back and watch the highlights of the championship game from 2010 and relay that back to this game, because we got some similarities. We may have two different teams 16 years later, but these are still the Packers and the Bears. The Packers went on to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 2 weeks later in Dallas and bring the Lombardi Trophy back to Titletown, USA. For the first time since 1996, team won it. In 1941, we going all the way back to the 1940s, America. In 1941, George Halas Bears beat Curly Lambeau's Packers in the playoffs at Wrigley Field. Chicago then knocked off the New York Giants in the NFL Championship, also at Wrigley Field. Packers seek to end skid. The Packers are the fourth team in NFL history to head into the playoffs on a losing streak of at least 4 games. The others were the 1986 New York Jets, the 1999 Detroit Lions, and the 2024 Pittsburgh Steelers. Those Lions and Steelers lost both of their playoff openers. The Jets won a wild card game against Kansas City before losing to the Cleveland Browns in overtime in the divisional round. So, you already know, you understand the previews, America. I gave you a historical intake about this game, and the Green Bay Packers are a 1.5 point favorite. This game, it could really go either way. I'm going to take Chicago. I am going to take the Windy City, the Chicago Bears, to some way, somehow beat the Green Bay Packers, because Jordan Love, we already know what we see. We already know what we see from Jordan Love in the regular season, and Jordan Love has shown glimpses in the playoffs of the strides that he has taken. But I just believe that the Iceman himself, Caleb Iceman Williams, can come through, and this is his first playoff game in Chicago, the first playoff game of his career, and I expect Chicago's defense and I expect Caleb Williams to have a good game in the form of a win, America. So I got the Chicago Bears winning this game. This is also on Amazon Prime Video. This is the only game for this week that will be on Amazon Prime Video. So if you got Amazon Prime, please, please, please set your clocks for 8 p.m. tomorrow night in the Windy City, because this is going to be cinema. You got the Green Bay Packers. You got the Chicago Bears. The oldest rivalry in NFL history. We have that rivalry in the playoffs. So, the next matchup that is on this list, we got the Buffalo Bills and those cats from Duval, the Jacksonville Jaguars. First, I am going to talk about the Buffalo Bills roster, and we got to figure out if Keon Coleman is going to play this game. It's been for the last few weeks the Buffalo Bills, they have been giving him disciplinary action, but this is a playoff game. You can't put Keon Coleman as a healthy stretch for a playoff game. You can't. And also, Sean McDermott, head coach of the Buffalo Bills, he is on the chopping block, America. If he lose this game, he may get fired Monday morning. He may get fired Monday morning. But obviously, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I need to go back to the schedule. The Buffalo Bills season started off with a miraculous come from behind win versus the Baltimore Ravens. And then you had losses, and then the Bills had losses with Atlanta, New England, Miami. Also, Houston, Philadelphia, they lost to New York. Excuse me. Excuse me. That is preseason talk. I'm sorry. So they lost to Miami, they lost to Houston, and they lost to Philadelphia. They won versus the New York Jets. Now let's see what can they do in Jacksonville. Now, I'm pretty sure everybody they can fast forward back to 2018. The Buffalo Bills came down to Jacksonville in 2018 for the playoffs. The Jaguars defense had a dominant victory. They shut down the Bills offense, only allowed 3 points, and I have a feeling that it is going to probably be the exact same way. So here's the statistics for the Buffalo Bills. We got Josh Allen. We got James Cooks. We got Khalil Shakir. We got Chris Bishop. And we got Chris Bishop as the leading interceptor for the Buffalo Bills. Now let's get to when we get to the receiving core. Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Dalton Knox. What about Keon Coleman? I believe there's going to be somebody that is going to have to step up in this game outside of those four and James Cook. So you got six people. You got Keon Coleman, James Cook, you got Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Knox, Keon Coleman, and Josh Allen. Somebody, Jaguars, they are going to make beat somebody else for the Buffalo Bills. They're going to have to beat the Jaguars. It's not going to be Josh Allen. It's really not, because what the Jaguars have done throughout the entirety of this season, they have they have neutralized their opponent's best weapon. And they have made all of those secondary players and third string guys, they have made those guys step up. And I believe this is what is going to happen in this game. Now, here's the Buffalo Bills defense. I'm going to tell y'all something. Buffalo Bills defense have the number one rushing defense. The Jaguars offense got the is a top 5 rushing offense. So something is going to have to give in this game. Something is going to have to give in this game. This is the first time in a long time where that the Jaguars going into this game, they feel like the underdog. And it seems like every time that the Jaguars get into the playoffs, no matter what, everybody have them as the underdog. Now I'm going to show y'all the Jaguars roster. I'm going to show y'all the Jaguars roster, which is led by Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, his statistics, he threw for over 4,000 yards for the first time in his career. Also, he also has Trevor Etienne. Also, he has Parker Washington. He also has Devin Lloyd, who is the leading interceptor for the defense. Also, Tan, also Travis Etienne is, Trevor Etienne is also the leading rusher for the Jaguars. Leading receiver is Parker Washington. Also, defensively, Jaguars have defense is top 15 in the NFL. And I do believe that they can neutralize the passing attack of the Buffalo Bills. I do. I do. So let's go back to the preview. Josh Allen and Bills begin their Super Bowl quest at the overlooked Jaguars, Jacksonville, Florida. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills don't have to beat Kansas City, Cincinnati, or Baltimore to reach the Super Bowl. The team with the reigning MVP and the AFC's most playoff experience faces a new path beginning with a wild card game in Jacksonville. Although this journey doesn't seem as daunting as those in recent years that included Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, or Lamar Jackson. It might equally it might be equally treacherous, especially with the Bills being on the road and seeking and streaking and surprising Jaguars already feeling overlooked. Allen opens his latest quest to get Buffalo back to the NFL's ultimate stage on Sunday. That's the way most outsiders will look at the matchup featuring the third seeded Jaguars 13-4 and the sixth seeded Buffalo Bills 12-5. Here's another. The whole football industry is going to be watching us, Jaguars running back Travis Etienne said. People who haven't been seeing us, we got to show them who we are. The Jaguars have won 8 in a row while averaging 33.6 points per game and have a derive extra motivation from being underappreciated all season, whether it's perceived slights from the national pundits or actual snubs like Pro Bowl votes and cast by players and coaches and fans. For this game, the Jaguars merely need to peek back at the betting line to find fuel installed Buffalo as a 1 point favorite at Everbank Stadium where the Bills last won in 2013. The Buffalo also is 0-5 on the road in the playoffs under coach Sean McDermott, starting with a 10-3 loss at Jacksonville in the 2017 wild card round. The Bills have dropped 8 consecutive postseason games on the road since winning at Miami in the 1992 AFC Championship game. It's the NFL's second longest active playoff road skid. Just to go out there and play, Bills running back James Cook said, you got only one game left. So every game, you just got to play like it's your last. Buffalo has been its best when Cook is well cooking. The Bills are 8-1 when the NFL rushing leader tops 100 yards on the ground. He's facing a tough task against the Jaguars, who haven't allowed anyone to reach 75 rushing yards while becoming the league's top run defense in 2025. What a great opportunity for us to be the only team playing the Jaguars defense. Defensive end Josh Hines Allen said, great opportunity for us to maximize what we can do and be on a platform to where people can watch our games everywhere and see what type of team we are. All eyes will be on the quarterbacks for a good reason. Jacksonville's Trevor Lawrence is playing as well as anyone. Lawrence has accounted for 24 touchdowns during the team's winning streak. Allen, meanwhile, carried the Bills as usual. He has 4 fourth quarter comebacks this season and made the Pro Bowl for the fourth time. Could this finally be the Super Bowl year? Josh wants to win. Bills receiver Gabe Davis said he's a huge competitor, and I feel like when it comes to these moments, it's when he really shines. Buffalo's kicking concerns. Buffalo got some kicking concerns. Buffalo's kicker, Matt Prater, 41, will try to play after aggravating a quad quadriceps injury last week. I just want to feel confident and feel good, said Prater, who took over the kicking duties after Tyler Bass was sidelined by hip and groin issues before the season opener. I'm going to do everything I can to get back and play, but we'll see what happens. If Prater can't go, the Bills have Matt Wright on the practice squad. Wright has six Wright has 6 seasons of NFL experience, including 14 games with the Jaguars in 2021. Jaguars want to get home with 4. There's a common theme in Buffalo's 5 losses. Allen was under intense pressure each game, leading to 5 sacks and turnovers, 8 sacks and 2 interceptions against Houston, 5 sacks and 2 fumbles against Philadelphia, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 2 fumbles against Atlanta, 3 sacks and an interception and a fumble against Miami, 1 sack and an interception and a fumble against New England. Jacksonville's goal pressure Allen with a 4-man rush and don't let him scramble for big plays. Huge test for those guys. Jaguars coach Liam Cohen said, I believe they'll be up for the challenge. Bills feeling the heat with Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Baltimore missing the playoffs. Buffalo Bills has been a trendy pick to win the AFC. Does that put more pressure on the Bills? Aren't we the 6th seed? Left tackle Deion Dawkins quipped. The whole world's not saying the Bills. Nobody's talking about the Buffalo Bills. So I feel like all this stress is not on our shoulders. We play to be in the dance. We're dancing. Now we just need to be prom king and queen at the end. Now let's get to the point spread for this game. Point spread is a point and a half for this game. I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Duval, or should I say Duval, is on the map this weekend, and I believe that the Jaguars will come through in this game. So, the next game I'm going to go to is the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, here's the statistics for the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to let everybody look at the statistics while I talk about the 49ers team as a whole. 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, they are a team, great team, and they are one of the most injury riddled teams in the NFL. It seems like that happens every year with the 49ers at the helm. Now, Kyle Shanahan, he has been one of those coaches that have always has been in the thick of things come late December and early January. Now, let's see what the 49ers can do on on Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles. Here is their schedule. The 49ers, they started off the season winning 3 straight, lost to Jacksonville, then lost to Tampa, lost to Houston, lost to the Rams, and they lost to Seattle the last game of the regular season. Now, the last time the 49ers played the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia, the 49ers blew out the Philadelphia Eagles. This was back in 20 this was during the 2023 season where the 49ers blew them out 42-13. So now we get to the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's see, what has the Philadelphia Eagles done recently, America? Well, the Philadelphia Eagles, they won the Super Bowl and they are back in the playoffs trying to repeat. Led by Jalen Hurts, who's thrown for over 3,000 yards. Saquon Barkley ran for over 1,000 yards this season. Devontae Smith has over 1,000 yards in the regular season. Zach Braun he's the leader in tackles, and Jay Hunt, is the leader in interceptions. Now, for the Philadelphia Eagles, what type of offense are we going to see? Is Kevin Patullo going to give the keys of the playbook to Jalen Hurts and let Jalen Hurts ball out like we know he can? Or is it going to be a conservative offense with Philadelphia throwing 5-yard plays, calling 5-yard plays, 5-yard hitch routes, and not necessarily throwing the ball deep to Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, and A.J. Brown? So, here is the defense for the Philadelphia Eagles. And here is solo tackles. They have 1,276 solo tackles as a defense. Now, let's get to the preview and the storylines for this game. Eagles host 49ers in wild card round as they seek a repeat Super Bowl title. Philadelphia, the Eagles declared from the first day of training camp and throughout another season that included an NFC East title. That word repeat is not a part of the locker room vernacular for the 2024 Super Bowl champions. We are not defending nothing, offensive lineman Jordan Maala said. However, the Eagles want to spin. This much is true. Philadelphia is a contender to repeat. Yes, the offense has lacked spark of a season ago when every snap they had promise of a spectacular play. Yes, there's been some unhappiness about everything from play calling to a worn out offensive line to the kicking game. Even the Eagles have played the Eagles. Even the Eagles playoff seeding number 3 in the NFC was scrutinized after coach Nick Sirianni rested starters in the season finale, costing them a shot at the number 2 seed and perhaps more home games. The Eagles, 11-6, believe little of that matters once they open their bid for a third Super Bowl appearance in 4 seasons on Sunday against San Francisco. We are here in this spot because of you. Want to run it back and you want to play and compete again, Sirianni said. That's part of the reason why you are here. There's a reason that the people in this building that are in this building, they have that hunger. They have that trophy too. Jalen Hurts is one of the 3 quarterbacks this season, playoffs, who has won a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford are the others. San Francisco's Brock Purdy lost his only Super Bowl appearance. His shot at another Super Bowl was derailed 3 years ago when he injured his elbow in the NFC Championship game and was ineffective in a 31-7 loss at Philadelphia. I haven't reviewed that game for a little bit. 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan said, led by Purdy, the 49ers have one of the most prolific offenses, but they stalled out with a shot at the top seed at stake in last Saturday's 13-3 home loss to Seattle. Purdy threw 127 yards, and Christian McCaffrey finished with a season low 57 yards from scrimmage against a strong Seahawks defense. The Eagles lost their season finale to Washington with many starters resting. The move backfired in the moment because a win would have given Philadelphia the number 2 seed, but they could pay off in the postseason if the Eagles have extra juice needed for another long playoff run. Incredibly beneficial for us, Maleala said. It's more like delayed gratification. You feel the rest more toward the end of the week and the start of the week kind of rusty. I feel a little slow as you practice during the week. You get your legs, you get everything firing again. Continuing last weekend's finale, the wild card game marks the first time all season the Eagles will play consecutive home games. To the road to last season's Super Bowl ran through Philadelphia. The Eagles say they are ready to pack their bags for the rest of January as long as they can beat the 49ers. McCaffrey get plenty of touches. McCaffrey made it through the season healthy, playing all 17 games for the San Francisco 49ers with a league leading 413 touches from scrimmage, most by any player since 2014. McCaffrey said he feels great and is excited to be in the excited for the playoffs, and Shanahan sees no reason to limit McCaffrey's workload. I look at it, Christian made it through that, and this is all we have guaranteed right now is Sunday. Shanahan said we have nothing guaranteed after that. So once you get to this part of the year, no one thinks about it like that. Niners have no plans for a third QB. The last time the 49ers went to Philadelphia for a playoff game, Purdy suffered a serious elbow injury on the first drive. Backup Josh Johnson got a concussion, and San Francisco played most of the second half without a functioning quarterback. That led to a rule change that allowed teams to have an emergency third QB if he was already on the 53-man roster. Shanahan has no plans to take advantage of that by signing Adrian Martinez from the practice squad as the number 3 QB behind Purdy and Mac Jones. I don't know anyone else who can ever choose that really, unless you're playing with someone who's really injured and you don't know and you don't think they'll make it through the game, Shanahan said. But to the play with one less player throughout the game because of something that for me has happened once in 23 years, and the other people I've worked with once in 45 years, just probably wouldn't be the best odds. Fans get 86th at Philly Bar. Some 49er fans had disappointment on tap when their request to take over a Philadelphia bar was denied by the owners. The latter, 15, posted screenshots of a request from a group asking if the bar had enough space to hold up to 200 49er fans on Friday night for a Friday night out. The bar's management posted its reply that said, "We cannot in good conscience host anything that has to do with the 49ers. The bar owners added that they hope fans would enjoy your time in the city of brotherly love." Now, the point spread for this game. Point spread for this game started out at 3 points for the Philadelphia Eagles, now has exceeded to 5.5 points. I just think that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win this game. I was thinking earlier on in the week that the 49ers would have a chance at winning this game. Now, correction, they do have a chance at winning this game, but when you start getting that Philadelphia defense to start taking over games, Saquon Barkley, you get him out there on the edge and get him to start running free. Philadelphia it takes it up to a whole new level for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I got the Philadelphia Eagles winning this game. The next game I am going to cover is the Los Angeles Chargers and the New England Patriots. Now, I am going to tell you all something. I'm going to go pretty quick with the Chargers because we all know that the Chargers are going to Charger. Here is their schedule. The Chargers are going to Charger because it's been, I'm going to say, 33 years since the Chargers have made it to the Super Bowl. And throughout the regular season, they lost to the New York Giants, Washington Commanders, Indianapolis Colts, Jacksonville Jaguars in a blowout, Houston Texans, and Denver Broncos. Now, the Patriots, on the other hand, first let me get to the statistics for the Chargers, led by Justin Herbert, Ladd McConkey. Here is D. Hintley, and here is their leader in interceptions, T. Jefferson. Here is rushing for the Chargers. Here's the receiving for the Chargers. Here is the defense for the Chargers. Here is the defense as far as solo tackles. 1,176 solo tackles for the Chargers defense as a defensive unit. Now let's get to the Patriots. The Patriots, another team I said that would be a dark horse team to make it to the playoffs. Everybody said no, they are not going to make the playoffs, but they are finally in the playoffs. Led by Drake May, who threw for over 4,000 yards this season. Trent Henderson, Stephon Diggs, leading receiver. R. Splillane, and here is Jay Hawkins, leading interceptor as far as safety. Passing, Drake May, top receiving, Trey Henderson. Here is top wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, and here is the defense. And the Patriots defense has 1,222 solo tackles as a defensive unit. The Patriots have not lost a road game all season. So if the Patriots do have to go on the road and play versus the New England Patriots, that is not going to be an easy game to pick, America. It's not. Now here's the preview for this game. Drake May and Justin Herbert each looking for first playoff wins as the Patriots host the Chargers. Foxborough, Massachusetts. In a year's time, Patriots quarterback Drake May has gone from rookie starter on a losing team to an MVP candidate and the face of a playoff squad. The rapid rise hasn't altered the 23-year-old's mindset as he prepares to lead New England to its first playoff game since the 2021 season. The Patriots 14-3 host the Los Angeles Chargers 11-6 on Sunday Night Football. May insists his focus is on following the same process that helped him get this far. I've got to win. I've got to play well for us to win, May said. I know that's the nature of this league and the nature of the position, and I wouldn't want to have it any other way. The wide receiver Stephon Diggs doesn't think May will be rattled by the postseason stage. Expect to see the same player, if not him doing more, Diggs said. Whatever duty calls or whatever the job calls for, he's been consistent. I'm excited for Drake through, though, another stage for him to shine. New England will be seeking its first home playoff victory since 2018, which concluded the franchise sixth Super Bowl title. That run started with a divisional round victory over these LA Chargers, where not just here to get here. The first-year coach, Mike Vrabel, said, we have to be able to host games and compete for championships. That's not going to be any consolation prize for anybody. We understand we have to do. Los Angeles is making its second playoff appearance under coach Jim Harbaugh. The franchise hasn't won a postseason game since 2018. In his sixth season, Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert is seeking his first playoff win. He enters with an 0-2 postseason record. To keep going in the playoffs is the goal for every team. We're handling and taking advantage of this opportunity and doing everything we can to be prepared for that, Herbert said. Experiencing is a good thing. I think you'll learn from what you did right, what you did wrong. Herbert is rested and ready. Herbert's health could be a factor in whether he's able to get over his postseason struggles. He's just over a month removed from having surgery to prepare a broken bone in his non-throwing hand. He was among several starters who sought out of the Chargers' regular season finale loss at Denver. I think not taking hits on it this week was probably helpful for it. Herbert said of his left hand, just getting back to making sure you have full strength and able to hold on to a football. Chargers, solid against deep passes. The Chargers defense has been great against the pass this season. Among the 12 playoff teams, LA allowed the fewest air yards, 1,520 yards during the regular season. May has been one of the league's best at throwing the ball deep. According to Sports Radar, May completed 76 passes of at least 20 air yards, which ranked in the NFL only behind Matthew Stafford with 72. Among quarterbacks who completed at least 20 passes that traveled at least 20 yards in the air. May's completion rate of 50.7% was third behind Brock Purdy's 63.6% and Sam Darnold 53.8%. Patriots offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels expects Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter to throw a variety of looks at May. Here's a few plays where they're going to be as completed as you've seen all year. McDaniel said, May said he's comfortable finding ways to beat schemes that feature extra defenders in the secondary. I think from an attack standpoint, if there's any coverage, there's always a void, he said. Patriots, perfect on the road, not too shabby at home. Patriots were 8-0 away from New England this season. They're only team in the NFL with an unblemished road record. In those games, New England outscored opponents by 80, but at home, its point differential was 90 points. To Vrabel, that's proof his team can play just as well at home. It's just got to be it's just got to be a tough place to play. In January, Vrabel said, we need to create a hard environment. We need to play well. Let our crowd feed off of us and let us feed off of them. So now the point spread for this game. Point spread for this game is 3.5. It opened up at 3.5 for the Patriots, and it is still 3.5. And I do believe that the Patriots will win this game. I believe that the Patriots are going to win in a blowout. Yes, I said it. I know that the Chargers, they have a good defense, but Justin Herbert, he is just a month or 45 days removed from a surgery that he had to replace surgery. Not to replace, but he had surgery on his non-throwing hand to a broken bone in his non-throwing hand. So now, the last game of Super Wild Card Weekend, I am going to get into the fold. It is the Houston Texans and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, let me tell y'all something about the Houston Texans. They have the top notch defense in the NFL. They do. Here's the statistics led by CJ Stroud. Here is W. Marks, Nico Collins, Alil Shair, and here is Jay Petrie. Petrie. He has 4 interceptions. So, what do I think about the Houston Texans in this game? I think that the Houston Texans, they are going to have a good game, but receiving is going to be, when it comes to, going to be at a premium in this game. It is, because the Steelers defense. Now, we all know that the Steelers defense has been lackadaisical at times this season. It has been. But one thing about it, this is going to be a defensive game no matter what. It is. It's going to be a defensive game no matter what. And you can see right here at the bottom, solo tackles is 1,216 solo tackles for the Houston Texans defense. Now let's get to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers schedule statistics led by Aaron Rodgers, Jay Warren, DK Metcalf, P. Washington, and leader in interceptions, TJ Watt. Here is the rushing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's the receiving for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And here's the defense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, we get to a point where the Steelers defense, at times this season, like I just said before, have been lackadaisical. They have 1,356 solo tackles as a defensive unit. The Texans have always started out their wild card playoff games at home. This one will be on the road. Now let's see what the Pittsburgh Steelers can do versus the Houston Texans. Now I'm going to get to the previews for this game. Mike Tomlin and the Steelers look to end a long run of playoff futility against the streaking Texans. Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin has no interest in shucking the weight off the Pittsburgh Steelers' recent playoff failures onto the shoulders of his players heading into Monday night's opening round visit by Houston. I'm certainly going to unpack my bags on the collective bed, if you will, said Tomlin, who will take a 6-game postseason losing streak on to the Acrisure Stadium turf to face the streaking Texans. The Steelers, 10-7, seem intent on carrying it away. Their future Hall of Famer quarterback, perhaps most of all, Aaron Rodgers, in the late stage of his 21st and perhaps final season, is well versed in how many things work. He wasn't immune to the noise that reached a hard to avoid level in late November when fans chanted for Tomlin's firing near the end of a blowout loss to Buffalo that left the Steelers 6-6. A lot of you probably in this group, either publicly or privately were talking about Mike Tomlin getting axed, Rodgers said. So it feels good to shut all those comments down, and it's a clean slate now. Anybody can make a run that includes Rodgers, that includes Rodgers believes his own erratic team. Pittsburgh respond from that messy end against the Bills by winning 4 of 5 to earn its first AFC North title in 5 years. The final win coming in a heartstopper in Week 18 against Baltimore that ended up costing longtime Ravens coach John Harbaugh his job. Tomlin served as he has every year for nearly 2 decades, but he hasn't won a playoff game. Survived as he has every year nearly 2 decades, but he hasn't won a playoff game since 2016 with a misstep against the impressive Texans and the top ranked defense. The volume about Tomlin's job status will no doubt be turned up, even if the conversation is a non-starter internally for a coach whose next losing season will be his first. They've gone to find out. They've got to find something to try and get after him. Rodgers said. Mike T's probably like me though. He doesn't care a whole lot about any of those comments, but we all love him. We want to play for him. We want to win for him. Tomlin at the Steelers aren't the only ones who will bring some baggage to the final game of Wild Card Weekend. Houston, 12-5, comes to Pittsburgh riding a 9-game winning streak, but also still searching for its road playoff victory in the franchise 24-year history. The Texans are 5-3 away from NRG Stadium this season, though just one of the wins came against a team that reached the playoffs. Coach DeMeco Ryans thinks his players have handled themselves pretty well on the road, though the energy and the stakes will be far higher against a Steelers team that hasn't lost a Monday night home game since 1991. Then again, considering the whole Texan team were in after a 3-5 start in a way, their postseason started 2 months ago. Our guys know how to win football games, Ryan said. That doesn't change because we're in the playoffs. We've been in that mode for a while now. Steelers Metcalf returns from suspension. Steelers wide receiver DK Metcalf will be back in the lineup after being suspended for Pittsburgh's last 2 games of the regular season as a punishment for making contact with a fan at Detroit on December 21st. The Steelers flirted with giving away the AFC North in his absence, limping through a loss to Cleveland, rebounding in the second half against Baltimore on a night Rodgers finished with a season-high 294 yards passing. The final 26 coming on a toss to a wide-open Calvin Austin III for the go-ahead touchdown. Metcalf, who took responsibility for his actions but declined to get into specifics, was so excited after Baltimore kicker Tyler Loop missed a 44-yard field goal as time expired that he hopped in his car and raced to Acrisure Stadium to join the celebration. The 2-time Pro Bowler, by far Pittsburgh's most accomplished pass catcher, is thankful for the reprieve. My teammates gave me another opportunity to come back, so just big shout out to them, said Metcalf, whose 850 yards receiving led the team, but also marked a career low. Kicking it with Cammy. Acrisure Stadium is one of the trickier places to kick with the NFL, as Luke found out last week when his potential game-winning kick sailed wide right on the final play. The Texans aren't worried about the conditions affecting Kami Fairbairn, who made the Pro Bowl for the second time in his career after tying the NFL record by making 44 field goals during the regular season. I have all the faith in the world in Kamai in Kami. In no matter where we are, Ryan said. Fairbarn could come up with the biggest week, come up big this week for a team that has a habit of playing in tight games. 7 of the team's 9 victories during their current win streak have been decided by 8 points or less. I tell you guys, you take for granted when you have such a great kicker who is able to secure you points, even if things don't go your way in the red zone. Ryan said, you want to score touchdowns every single drive, but it doesn't happen. You get in range and you get a sure-footed kicker who can make those points. Texans bring fearsome duo Anderson and Hunter. The key to Houston's stellar defensive performance this season is clear to Ryan. For us and how we've played defense all year, it's really predicated on how we get after the passer. The leading that charge against Rodgers on Monday would be defensive ends Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., who have combined for 27 sacks. Tomlin raved about the duo. Will Anderson and Hunter are simply the most dynamic edge rush tandem in the National Football League in 2025, he said. And he knows what they'll have to avoid if they want to give the 42-year-old Rodgers time to operate. We better stay out of a bunch of one-dimensional passing circumstances, because if we're in those circumstances, we're going to be in trouble, he said. That's just the reality of it. Now, we are at the end of the show. We went over an hour. Let's see the point spread. Point spread for this game is opened up at 2.5 points. Now it's 3 points. And I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. I am going with the upset. I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. And with that, those are my predictions for a super wild card weekend in the NFL. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube, Key City Sports on Instagram, and the Key on Millions.co. Here is my merchandise on Millions.co right now. Here is my profile so that you will know it's me. Here is my media feed for all of my segments, clips, sound bites, and all content that you want to look at. Remember, everybody, one last thing. The key is always on time.